Business Saturday team, and I'm joined by the fabulous Emma today, who will be giving an amazing session on building a rock solid business plan, as you can see. Um, do say hi in the chat as always. Let us know where you're from, what your business is, and before
Oh,
I hand over,
okay.
oh no, don't worry.
I was carried away, didn't I?
Before I hand over, I'll just to remind you, it is recorded, and we will be sending the recording out in the replay newsletter. So if you need to go back through it, write any notes or anything like that, you will be able to. And we will be doing some Q&A at the end. So if you could put your questions in the Q&A box rather than in the chat, that would be great. And if you need closed captions, they're to turn on your screen at the bottom, whether that's on catch up or live. And a big thank you to BT for supporting us. And I will hand over to Emma and join you again at the end.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much. Well, morning everyone. It's rank where I am as well. Actually, I'm just looking, there's literally weather all down the windows. So I am Emma Mills-Sheffield, independent consultant, ex-corporate background, but like I always say, don't judge me on that. What I do is I work with scaling companies, small businesses and micro businesses to help them on their business planning, their growth planning, their strategy, leadership development, that sort of thing. I've done that for 6 years since I escaped the glassy towers of Canary Wharf. So I live on the coast. I was always, going to say I'm a proud Brightoner, but I've moved half an hour along the coast, so that is my view from the beach, which I love. I have been featured in quite a few different places. I'm a regular with Small Business Britain, so I'm sure I've met some of you before. And also, if you want to ask a busy person to do something, then that's exactly what happened to me recently. And I also have recently co-founded Kintara, which is a consultancy aimed to help businesses navigate the human side of AI transformation. So, why don't we dig in? There's loads to cover this morning, and I'm going to keep the chat open because it's always good to see what your businesses do, any questions coming in. But as Ellie said, if you can keep questions for the end in the Q&A box, it just makes life a bit easier because it does get a little bit wild in the chat, as you'll know. But please keep adding in what's happening. What have you got going on? My exciting weather news was that the bin got tipped over in the wind this morning, so high excitement in the world of Worthing. Right, business planning. Where do we start? So, as this is a this is an old quote, Abraham Lincoln and or Facebook, who knows, saying, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first four sharpening the axe." I'm a big fan of planning, and if you've come to any of my webinars before or met me in person, then you absolutely know that I'm a big planner. We often run at things. We think as a small business owner, we have to do a bit of everything all the time, and we can rush. We can be busy, busy, busy doing business. And actually, what we really need to think about is how do we make a sustainable plan? So we need to make our lives a little bit easier. We need to try and get time to have a bit of a breather, I think, as a small business owner. I don't know about you, but it can feel sometimes like we're barreling towards the next big thing. I'm just saying to Ellie that only a couple of, in theory, sort of 3 working weeks of December left. So if you're in a service-led industry, you're going to have to bill, a whole month's work in 3 weeks. If you're in retail, no doubt you're probably not here on this webinar because you're going to be busy, busy. And, other businesses have this seasonality to them. So you do find that we have a lot of, a lot of push for this end of the year. But with that can also come some nice downtime. So I always like to spend a bit of time thinking about next year. There's no point planning next year in January. Your financial year might be April, that's also fine, but we do work really well in those calendar years. So I think if we focus now on business planning, we're going to say, right, January the 1st, exactly a month away, believe it or not, 2026, what is it we want in our businesses? So in this session, we're going to cover how to prioritize what really matters in your business plan, tools to help build and challenge your plan, also how to monitor your progress, making sure you're on track during the year. 12 months is a long time, but if you blink, you'll miss it. And so what I don't want people to think is in a year's time, crikey, I've got 1 month left of the year. How do I rush to close those sales, make those targets, and so on? How can we measure monthly, weekly, almost daily to say, am I on track? And I always think of a business plan as being like your business GPS. You have to know where your end goal is. And if you start to deviate, it's fine. It's very normal. But how do we make sure we come back on track before we've suddenly gone off and taken too many wrong turns? I'm going to ask you a question where I do want you to put something into the chat, please. I'm going to give you 4 options here. So you just need to write a letter or 2. What do you think your biggest challenges for your business are going to be in 2026? Is it A, certainty around cash flows or customer spend? Is it B, finding new business opportunities? C, being able to stick to a plan whilst you juggle everything? Or D, no real change from this year? Okay. Oh, wow. This is a real mix. Lots of cash flow. Somebody's put A, B, and C. Thank you for being honest. Um, we have an absolute mix here around cash flow, customers willing to spend, finding new business opportunities, and also the perennial juggle. Nobody's really said no real change from this year. So that's great. Now let's think about what we need to do to make sure we can approach this with a rock solid plan, that we are looking for new opportunities and being open-minded, also not scrambling after things. We need to kind of maintain a bit of a strategy around this. Great. All right, I'm going to put the webinar chat down because I'm not a multitasker. Okay. How to have strong foundations in your business plan. So I thought I wanted to change this up a little bit for everybody. We normally have, I'm going to start on the right-hand side just to make it easy. The final structure. We think about a business plan as having certain key elements in it. If I explain how we build it, then we can see what it looks like when it's done. Now, I want to give you the warning here that this doesn't have to be 80 pages. In fact, please don't make it 80 pages. No one's going to read it and you're not going to stick to it. I'm giving you the summary of a business plan that can be used for a very small business and not something that's going to be, you're going out to, you're not sharing it with the shareholders. You're not trying to get venture capital funding. This is something practical that even if you put it on 1 or 2 pages and printed it and stuck it on your notice board, you can check in on it regularly. So let's start with number 1 on the left. To start building this, we want to have an overview of why our business exists. Like Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why. We don't want to know what you do yet. I want to know why you do it. What's your passion? What's your vision, your goals, your ambition? This is very much your kind of guiding North Star. It anchors everything else that you do. When you know why you do something, it helps you decide what not to do and what to do. If you have started a business because you want more flexibility and time with the family, then say it. No one else has to read this. But what it means is you're less likely to be taking on absolutely everything if you know what you really want is balance. SWOT analysis as of today. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I'll show you that in a bit more on the next page. We need to be brutally honest about where we stand today. They're the only facts we have, not where we think we're going to be in 6 months, but who are our competitors now? Who are our customers now? What do I do well now? And what do I not do so well? This gives us a real reality check that means we can then start to make some sensible decisions in our business. We then, number 3, look at market analysis, including the competitors. Who are we up against? What are the gaps? Then we know we can sort of start filling that or coming up with strategies to become more competitive than someone else. Then overview of services and products for next year. What are you actually going to sell? You can then refine your offer based on what the market's telling you, what your customer reviews are telling you. Um, what's already in progress, but equally, if you stop and think about it, what else can you add, or even what can you take away? You then need a marketing strategy for your target market or audience. How will you know you're going to reach the right people? You need to then, this marketing strategy flows from knowing your market and your offer. Lots of you said customer spend, cash flow, and new opportunities were some of the concerns you have for next year. So don't spend money on marketing in the wrong places. Work out how you can maximize the cheaper things like referrals or reviews, or, is there a discount code for somebody if they recommend someone else to your services? Rather than throwing money in advertising, perhaps when it's not the right platform. Then number 6, operational support. Now, if you've got a team, you've got a management structure, great. Detail the roles and responsibilities. But often, I'll say probably more often than not, your entire business is you. You are HR, sales, IT, marketing, and also doing the thing it is that you're known for. It's still worth pretending to kind of, if you step into that CEO position and then work out what it is that I do, how can I segment some of my work? How can I get a freelancer in to help? How can I even just work on my time management a bit better? If I know I have to do loads of commenting on social media, kind of set a timer and work out when can I do it versus taking up like that really strategic headspace time that you need maybe from 9 till 12 in the morning. The financials, obviously, it sounds pretty obvious. There's revenue and income streams. Do the maths stack up? Do the numbers stack up? This is a reality check on whether your plan is viable. And then you obviously start with an executive summary in the document, but this is the last bit to do as you build your business plan. Write this piece last because this is the compelling overview to introduce the business plan once you know what it actually says. It's easier to do the big work, the hard work in building this, and then you can summarize it all at the end. Now, I'm not saying put it into ChatGPT or something to summarize it for you because you don't want your business information going, into going online. But it is almost that exercise. It's like, now I've done all the hard work. How do I summarize this into something really, snappy, a couple of sentences long? Then on the right, you can restructure it all. So you really start with that executive summary that because you've built that bit last, you're going to have a real energy about it. You're going to be passionate about what you do. You've then got your overview, your goals, your passion, your business, your ambition. And then you go into all the detail. Finally, ending with the operational stuff. Who does what when? And if you build it in that order, it actually becomes quite manageable. And I'll talk to you in a minute, actually. I'll share some ideas around different tools you can use for different sections of this. But all of this should help to just kind of create that visibility for your business that you can then go back to and say, like, customers aren't spending on this product line. Why? What's the problem? Maybe I need to do some SWOT analysis on just that one piece. Then you can, be a bit more critical and work out what you need to do to take those next steps. Now, we have here a SWOT analysis. Some of you will go, yeah, I've done that before. Easy. Other people think, oh, this looks a bit, a bit complex. It's absolutely fine. You just draw 2 lines on a page. You've got 4 quarters. S, W, O, and T. And this is obviously a great opportunity to get your sticky notes out. I'm a big fan of post-it notes for this sort of exercise. Strengths. So what's internal? What is it you do well? Don't ignore these things, but be complimentary about yourself. We often find all the weaknesses, but we don't write the strengths down. Ask a family member, ask a team member or someone else to say, you define my strengths, because often we can't say it ourselves. Don't ignore them when you've done them, but work out how to build and enhance. You might be a fantastic communicator. You might get on so well with all of your customers and clients that really your customer service sets you apart. Build and enhance on that because that will become your differentiator. Don't just take it for granted. The weaknesses on the right, things you need to improve. Again, these are internal. How do you resolve and reduce these problems? Your weaknesses might be lack of engagement on social media, as in you just don't get on it. You can't bear to deal with all of the different platforms and things. So maybe an activity, or sorry, an action here would be to have somebody come in and help you do that. Bottom half of the line are the external factors. What are the opportunities you can exploit and expand on? Is it a trend? Is it a gap in the market? Is it taking your strength and turning it into an opportunity? There'll be lots of things to list here as well. And also things to overcome or avoid on the right are the threats. So this might be competitor edge, external market influence, obstacles. You know, if you've got a cafe and two new cafes are opening up in the high street, that's an external threat. So you need to work out how to double down on your own plan, your own strategy. And if it's customer service, if it's artisan coffee, you know, that's the sort of thing you're going to want to be pushing out into your social media. You want to be getting your reviews out, asking people for Google reviews to really try and make sure you cement your position there. This sort of document here, you don't need a template for a SWOT analysis. Like I said, it's just 4/4 of a page. So this is a nice, easy thing to do. Anything we run through today, you can catch on the replay as well. If there's something that you've missed, thinking, oh, crikey, I wanted to capture some notes, then obviously you can go back in, screenshot it, grab some notes as you need to. Pitfalls. It's all well and good talking about what you should do. Don't forget, these are some of the things that you shouldn't do. And these are things that I see quite often in business plans. But here are some tips to avoid. Make sure your plan isn't poorly written or is vague. You need to be quite specific. However, make sure it's not too detailed or hard to work with. If you go and make it 30 pages and highly complex, you're going to drown in detail. You need to make sure it's clear, but it's usable. Often, competitors or challenges in the market are underplayed. We all have competition, but actually, we don't always have to worry about it. We need to know it's there. But if what you do is unique, then you don't have such a problem with that. Equally, there's work for everybody. If you're in a service industry, people buy people, and they're going to go to you because of how you are and what you offer versus going to the next person. There'll be customers for them as well. That's also fine. We can think about how we collaborate, not compete with people too. Not having an understanding of a challenge in the market is a real blind spot as well for small businesses. We can be as kind of convincing ourselves as much as possible everything's going to be okay. But if you know tariffs coming in are actually going to hit your business, you need to, address that early. Not having clear goals and objectives, that's always a problem because if you don't know where you're going, if you think about that GPS analogy, you're basically getting in the car and just wandering. So you need to know exactly what it is you want to do. But, you see something you like to do differently, well, that's fine, take a detour. You need to have some flexibility and adaptability. One, for fun, because there's no point going on this road trip following your GPS and you see something interesting and think, oh no, I can't possibly turn off there. Yeah, why not? If you've got time, take the detour, have the fun. But we need to build in the flexibility and the adaptability in case customers tighten their belts and they don't pay, they're not paying what they were paying. Or you get ill, something happens. You need to be able to adapt. Also, unrealistic timelines. That is a problem. We often overestimate what we can achieve. And with that, the sort of unrealistic assumption, number 8, is quite similar. I see people go into business who say, right, if I want to get to £100,000 revenue in, 3 years, I will be doing 30 this year, 50 that next year, and then 100. Well, 6 months in, that graph is not doing that in the first 30 grand. It's sort of dotting along here because starting a business, as we all know, it's not plain sailing. So does that mean you need to get 30 grand in the second 6 months of the year? Maybe. Are you being realistic? So we need to make sure we're being honest. And actually, if you set your goals a bit lower, then you can work with something to then kind of, to build next year rather than thinking I failed in any way. You need a clear target market and audience. You need to have adequate research. So often, if a plan demonstrates inadequate research, you've gone a bit off piste. If your cafe is near the station and really your footfall is for commuters, then there's no point having research about all the mums and toddlers that come in, if that's not really the footfall that you need. So just think about being really honest about the research. Have someone critically appraise your business plan. Somebody else, preferably in a small business, because if you ask family, they might just go, "Oh, it's wonderful, yeah, yeah, yeah," but they don't know what it's like to run a business. Equally, somebody who's an employee, not in your business, but someone else who's a friend, they have different needs and, goals and drivers, so they don't necessarily understand what it's like. Lastly, the business owner claims there is no risk. That's also something that can crop up in a business plan. There's no risk to supply chain, no risk to pricing or anything like that. There always will be, for sure. There was a question that came up, and I've seen actually someone's answered, which is great, for Marcella, around sharing. Should you share your business plan with your team? Yeah, absolutely. Now, you might summarize it. You might not want to share all of the detailed finances or, your personal goals. If your personal goal is to cut your hours down or exit the business or sell it in a couple of years, that's quite a sensitive conversation to have with staff. But if you have a leadership team, they kind of need to know that you're all planning for an exit. You just need to, when you've designed your plan, work out how much you want to share. There's another bonus with having a good business plan, and that is you can take it to your bank if you want a loan. It helps you build grant applications, if you're thinking about funding. So all of this means you've got to hand the question, so you've got the answer to the question they're always going to ask, which is, great, what's your business plan? So often people go, don't know. I've fallen into running a business and I've just been doing it for 5 years and it seems to be going okay. That's fine. Good. That's great. But how do you know, if I was to lend you the money, how do I know you've got a plan to do something with it? And obviously then provide a return on investment. So having a plan also just gives you that nice warm feeling that you know your business and you understand it. So I'd always recommend spending some time on it. Talking about business planning would not be, a session on this would not be done if we didn't talk about AI. So I want to give you again some examples, how to use it or what to use, and again also some pitfalls because it's not perfect by any means. So how can we save time in doing it? Well, if we use some AI tools for certain elements, we can drive efficiency in the business, we can reduce costs, and also this data-driven insights, lovely old phrase, isn't it? Means that you've got more information and analytics to help you make smarter decisions in your business. Now, this is using it in your business, but also in your business planning. There's no point having a GPT created business plan if you then just go, right, it's not for me. Like, this doesn't reflect my business. You need to work hand in hand with any tools that you use and be really specific about why you're using a particular tool. And if it's not serving you, don't use it. Not every platform, not every tool will actually give you everything that you need. So I just called out a few here that I'm sure lots of you are familiar with some, if not all. But just to give you an idea of how you might pick on a certain tool for your business. ChatGPT, as we know, is an application that sits over the large language model, which is basically the engine. ChatGPT is how we drive it. We use it for content creation, customer service responses, standard replies, things like that, and email drafting. That's quite a good thing to use. Proofing documents, all that sort of stuff. You can have a lot of work done in quite a short space of time. QuickBooks, obviously, Xero, similar. Every financial software package now will have an AI element. So you might get better financial forecasting, expense tracking. You'll notice that likely your subscriptions go up. I've seen that happening quite a lot now, where because of the investment that all these companies are making into using AI and embedding it, we're all paying for it. So if you have to pay, make the most of it, but don't kind of double up on too many tools. Canva obviously has got an AI option. Perplexity is actually much better than ChatGPT for research and data summarization. It will cite the sources it uses as well. So if you ask it to give you information on, a particular subject, it will give you all the sources, but don't trust it. Click them, check them, and really interrogate it. Because often you'll get a response generated in AI that will look really compelling because you think, crikey, they found some really cool academic research there. Make sure it's real, because just because it's given you a link doesn't mean it's actually correct. Numerous AI is quite good, and that's a spreadsheet automation and data analysis tool. It's a bit like having a little ChatGPT function in each cell, so that's quite good. And Copilot. So if you use the Microsoft suite, obviously you can access Copilot. This is not an AI 101 session, so I'm not going to go into the pros and cons of each, but what I'll do is just give you some tips, best practice, and kind of, as I said, the common pitfalls for you to then work through. Right, best practice. Balance your own human judgment with what comes out. See it as a good first draft and nothing more. Now, then you can refine it, but do really interrogate it and don't just take it for what it says. Be specific with the prompts that you use and also the information you enter, but be super careful about putting too much in there. We all know client data cannot go in. You don't want to put in sensitive financial information, anything that's got an intellectual property or copyright rules. You don't want to be uploading anything like that. But the more specific you are with your requests, the better the output is. I had an argument with, I think it was ChatGPT recently, because it was just not doing as I asked. I wanted it to, and this is quite a good use of it for saving time. I asked it to take all of the post-it notes from a workshop. There's nothing sensitive on there, from a photo, and just write out all the text for me so I could then summarize it and start to deal with it. And it did not take all the words, not because it couldn't read some of them. It just said, yeah, I just summarized it instead. I said, no, word for word. Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll do that next time. And it was like arguing with a petulant child. It just kept doing it incorrectly. It kept apologizing. And then it said, oh, yeah, my bad. I shouldn't have done that. It's like, I'm arguing with a, truculent 12-year-old. It didn't do what I needed. It didn't save me time. So to the point at the end, I said, look, I'll just do it myself. It's actually quicker. It went, oh, yeah, I'll try and do better next time. So I closed that chat, thought, delete that. I don't want that feeding into any of my history, because it was rubbish. But there's a time and a tipping point where sometimes it takes longer to learn how to use it than it does for you to benefit from it. So just use each use case as you go, sensibly. And then once you get into it, then you'll suddenly find you've got a lot of repeatable tasks that you can benefit from. Another thing to do is to use it as if you're your own customer or competitor. Don't go in necessarily saying, oh, I'm a small business that runs a cafe. Go in as a customer and really start asking it questions. I've got two children, husband commutes, really want to meet up somewhere near the station. What cafe has the best feel to it? What's it like for this? What's it like for that? And just see what it comes up with. Cafe, sorry, might not be the best example, but interrogate it as if you're wearing a different hat. You're somebody else today. You're maybe your competitor. So the best thing to do is to approach it from different angles rather than just saying, please write me a business plan. But look at it do different chunks as you go and then interrogate each piece with different views. Obviously, always validate the outputs with your real world knowledge because it doesn't know. And have a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking. Critical thinking is so important when it comes to this. I give you another example here and it looked really compelling. I wanted a quick multiple choice question page to put into a training deck for a presentation. So I said, can I have 6 questions, multiple choice on the following subject? They went, yeah, here you go, whoosh. It gave me incorrect options, as in duplicates, didn't look that good. No sources. So I said, well, where are the sources from this? Oh, yeah, okay. The World Health Organization, the UN. I thought, oh, okay, that's pretty compelling. I could have stopped there and just said, well, the UN says, X% of people, in this country have X or Y. I then asked, I said, well, can you give me exact links as to where it came from? I went, no, they just looked compelling. So all it did was mock up a multiple choice page with something that looked like it worked. So you have to be so careful you actually interrogate it all. So with that, the pitfalls, don't be too impressed by it. It's very easy to look at the speed that things come out at, be impressed by it, and then you trust it. Don't have an over-reliance. Use it where it works for you, but don't ignore the human context in what your business does. We are our businesses and people buy from you for a reason. So if you're in the creative industries, use it to help draft emails or deal with your finances, but it can't take away what it is you actually do. And if you're at a craft fair, people will buy from you. So that human context is massively important. So again, don't misinterpret data. Obviously, it can make things up. People say it hallucinates. Technically, it doesn't because it's not sentient, but it does follow a process where it thinks the most likely word that follows this word or this phrase is something. And so you will get some random rubbish in there. Don't ignore sustainability, ethical considerations, and data security. Read the terms and conditions. Just because something might be locked down now doesn't mean it's going to be locked down after a software update. If it's open, AI, it is open. So anything you put in will go to train the model. So just be careful about what you upload. Sustainability is also a consideration for a lot of people now. It's hugely energy consumptive. So if you're creating generic images, things that don't look right, really, but we just kind of do and we stick them on, LinkedIn or whatever, it's not authentic. People see through it. And lots of these images are now having negative connotations for small businesses because other businesses are masquerading as that and selling, cheap imported goods instead. So just be critical when you see anything with AI. If it looks too perfect, it's probably generated. And with that, the consumption of energy, of water for cooling, everything like that is so high. You just think about it. Do I really need that image of a cat on a skateboard? Because we kind of probably don't. And then the last one here, I made this phrase up. It didn't come out of ChatGPT, but it could have done. So I'm delighted to generate generic or generalized US spelling, image heavy and synergized. Doesn't sound a thing like you nonsense. It can create junk. But also, I think we get used to seeing poorly crafted like social media posts and content now. Make sure it sounds like you. Feed your tone of voice into it, or certainly use it as a first draft and then edit things afterwards. US spelling is a dead giveaway, and also big old corporate fluff words, generalized and syllogized. Like, really, do we use those words? Just be critical of it. Now, I sound like I'm speaking badly of this, new AI friend that we have, but use it well, make it work for you in your business. You can use it in your business planning, and actually, it might serve to inspire you when you get stuck and you think, oh, how am I actually going to put this business plan together? Question it, throw things into it, get it to, get it to feed back to you. And you might look at it and go, oh, that sounds really nice. I like that. You might say, make it sound a bit friendlier. I'm trying to appeal to people of a certain, generation. How do I sound like that? So just play with it. Don't be scared of it, but do have a healthy cynicism. Okay. Right. How do you stay on track? How do you stay on track next year? We're looking at planning for 2026. Let's set our objectives. So we're going to have a big goal for the year. And I'm going to say our big goal is to double our revenue because that's a nice, easy number. That's broken down into two 6-month chunks. So what is it I want to get in the first 6 months? By understanding your 6-month objective, you can then focus in on what's the 3 months objective, which is your midterm. 3 months is broadly 12 weeks. There's actually a good book called The 12-Week Year, which helps you kind of shrink a year into a quarter. I'm not saying you're going to get 4 times growth, but it just sharpens your thinking. When we look at a quarter and say, okay, we've got Jan, Feb, March, are they all busy go, go, go months? Or do we find that January is pretty slow on the sales side of things? And then February picks up for Valentine's Day and then Easter coming up in March, April. If you have a view of what happens in each quarter, you can then hone in on your month-long objectives, which are short-term. As I said at the beginning of the call, today is a month start, first of the month, and we've got Christmas for most people, kind of not even kicking off on the 25th. It feels like most people are wrapping up on sort of the 19th. That's about a 2.5, 3 week month. So being sensible about it, how do we plan for these things? We can plan by having weekly activities, which are immediate, and then we can break it down into daily tasks. In your daily tasks, work out what it is you can actually get done. If you want to increase sales, then on a daily basis, do you have to engage with your followers on social media? Do you need to, on a weekly basis, monitor your cash flow? Do you need to make 3 cold calls a day? For some people, that works. So that might be what you need to do. Perhaps you need to network twice a week. Think about how you structure your time to ultimately start getting a input into your goals. So be smart with these, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic or relevant, and time bound. Measure and monitor what you do. There's no point just hoping and aiming. We need to be critical and measure what's happening and monitor when things aren't working. We need to track those targets. So KPIs, these stand for key performance indicators. That sounds a bit jargony. And what it means is something that tells us how well our business is working. Maybe that is going to be your sales figures, profitability and cash flow forecasting. Perhaps something helpful for you to measure is the turnover rate of your stock, the speed of sale. How long do things sit around before they get sold? If you've had to put money in to buy a bulk load of something, when do you actually get paid? Debtor days, how long does it take to get paid? If you're in the service industry, you'd like to say, right, payment within 14 days, you might find it's 45. So all these KPIs are things that you can measure. Engagement on social media, website analytics, all of those. I'm not saying measure all of them, but work out for your business a couple of things that you know help you measure if things are working or they're going off track. And not just improving things that aren't working, but celebrate when things do. We're really often quite bad at that. We're on to the next thing already. We're always busy. But you know what? If you actually hit your target, or you closed a deal with a new supplier, or you've got your products into a shop, I mean, brilliant. You celebrate that. So we need to kind of, I think, look at our business quite holistically, but then we need to hone in on what it is we need to get done, where we're trying to get to, and how do we do all of these, these activities that then feed up into that long-term picture. An activity for you all to do this month. So let's not just barrel into next year and say, come on, we've got to make a plan. Yes, we need to make a plan, but let's just stop, put the kettle on, have a cup of tea, and work out, what have I done this year? Sit down, reflect on what we've achieved. Think back to what your goals were for this year. Did you meet them? If you did, measure how well you did. Maybe you hit them early. Maybe you hit 2 out of 4, or maybe you missed all of them because, life happened in the meantime. That's okay. It just gives you that view as to what you want to do for next year, rather than just adding things on. Work out what it is you want to stop, start, or continue doing. This is a really straightforward methodology to stop, start, and continue. If a product line is not shifting, okay, stop it. Put your energy somewhere else. Maybe you're going to stop networking at too many events where you're taking time, but you're not getting any return. Maybe you're going to start going to a new networking event because you've heard it's great and it's fun, and it's nearby. And things you're going to continue doing. If you write them down, you're more likely to carry on doing it rather than forgetting. Because I think, again, we just get busy doing business. Maybe what you need to continue doing is always asking your clients for testimonials, because that just gives you that sort of, feedback bank that you can use. And then in the bottom line, work out what you want to achieve next year, and then how you'll measure success. Do add in something for you, not just your business. If it's about, balance and not working 7 days a week, then put it in here. And then you'll measure success by, looking at how well you're doing against that. So this is an activity you can do in the next couple of weeks. I think it's a good reflection, and it also means you can set next year's intentions and targets, a bit more specifically. We're going to want to make sure we have time for questions. This is Michael Porter, business strategist. I think this sums up so beautifully. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. You have my permission to say no. We say yes to everything. And so let's work out what not to dilute our time, energy, and what we're known for with. If you're in the service industry and servicing, seeing your clients is absolutely what you want to do, then maybe don't get carried away and decide you want to write a book. If you really want to write a book and you think you'll enjoy it, brilliant. You add that into your, planner and work out how you can allocate time for it, but not at the cost of doing what you're known for. If it's going to help you move forwards, that's a different thing. But often we will just take in all these things and we'll have a big dose of FOMO and panic we're going to miss out on everything else. And everyone else is writing a book, so I must launch a course. If it's not going to serve your business and it's going to take too much time and energy, well, just don't do it. Any questions? We have time for questions now. There's also a QR code. I am, again, always ask a busy person. You can follow me on LinkedIn, but there's a likelihood I will also be launching something that is producty based that will help small business owners. But that's a next year job. So I probably need to stick that in my 2026 plan, don't I, Ellie?
Sounds exciting though.
It's a bit, imagine me, but like really small, but technical, and I could sit on your desk and tell you what you need to do in your business and challenge you and give you guidance.
I'd use
Maybe
it.
people are literally logging off going, no, thanks ever so much. That'd be awful. Or we might say, yeah, awesome. I don't know.
I'd have you sat on the end of the desk.
Perfect. All right, the mini me.
Thank you, Emma. That was great. There are a couple of questions, and if anybody has any others, do pop them in. Just I've seen asked a few times. Anybody who missed it, it will be recorded, and we will send the replay link out. We've been doing it on a Friday just so people aren't getting emails every single day. But if you do want it sooner, we can share the YouTube link, or you can search it up on the Small Business Saturday page. Just I saw a couple of people have asked that. One of the first questions was, should I share their business plan with their staff?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe a subset of it. They're not necessarily going to need to know all the detail. Um, you are the business owner. So what you write, if you want to keep it confidential, that's absolutely up to you. But give them a clean summary of it.
Yeah.
So they can see what you're aiming towards, because it helps people set their own objectives. If you want to double revenue in the year, if you've got someone who helps with HR, they're thinking, like, that doesn't work for me. I don't get it. Like, it's a bit abstract. But if it means you need to free up time for people to deliver X to customers, then for HR to be as efficient as possible, one of their objectives will be how to drive efficiency and cut cost on what they do, perhaps, to be able to free other people up. So yeah, absolutely, it helps people know where they're going, and it's the same for a charity or any organization. People need that map so they know where they're going.
Amazing. So then the next one was, I find it hard to know how to focus my business plan when I target both individual self-funding clients and also organizations. It starts to sound complicated and not cohesive. Any tips?
You could have two very clear sections. So you can have your almost B2C, direct to consumer or customer, that's self-funded, messaged in a certain way, because presumably your marketing will be slightly different. If you're offering business coaching, right? That's a good example. So you might have your for a small business, they're self-funding, whereas no, reverse, right? Coaching in a business. And so someone might pay on their own, and they're not going to be able to afford the corporate rate. Whereas the corporate package might be all the bells and whistles, and you stick it on, the costs as you need to run a program. They're two different audiences, really. So I would have two different approaches within the plan, rather than being really trying to cover everything all the time as you go. I'd keep it really segmented into sort of, here's my persona, my ideal customer profile. Somebody who works in HR who wants coaching versus somebody who heads up an entire learning and development team who's buying a corporate package. See what I mean?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I quite like a very clear, like separate lists as well. So
Yeah, because also it would put me off. If I was an individual, an employee, I would be looking at it going, that's not my thing. I can't afford
Mhm.
50 grand, but I can pay 500.
Yeah, but something specific. Um, how does one make a business plan for a business they haven't started yet? So I suppose some top tips for getting started right
Oh,
from
great idea.
scratch.
Great idea. Have a go and create your ideal business and your ideal business plan. Don't be too dreamy, but be aspirational, because you get to play now. You get to decide what it is you want to do. It might also help decide what ideas are not going to work as well. So absolutely do it before you start. It's a great thing to do. Put it away again, come back later and see how it works when you're actually in reality, because often we start a business and you don't go down the same path as you thought you might.
It can change a lot, can't it?
Yeah.
On that, kind of from right from the get-go, is how do you prioritize when everything feels important? So how do you narrow down all the important things?
Oh yeah, I've got another deck open actually at the moment for something else. I love it's called the Eisenhower matrix, and that is again, it's another four boxes on a page. Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Q1, quarter one, quadrant one is important and urgent, right? So these are all the fires we have to put out. Q2 is important but not urgent. And so that's where you want to spend most of your time. They're the strategic things you need to do. Q3 is kind of delegating or batching things up. Admin, doing your expenses on a Friday afternoon. Don't do that when you should be prioritizing actually writing a marketing plan. And then Q4 is stuff to go throw in the bin. Things you've been on your list for far too long, favors you said you'll do, things you said you'll review, you're never going to do it, just delete them.
Get rid.
Um, Junk mail, delete,
Clear some
unsubscribe.
space.
So yeah, spend time in Q2 on the priorities that will move your business forward and then narrow those down and say, right, out of these three, which is the one that's going to move me forward first? In which case, that is what I'm going to focus on.
I noticed it wasn't actually in the Q&A box, but it was in the chat. Someone said that they were once advised to make three versions of a business plan: the optimistic, the realistic, and the pessimistic one. The idea being that you hope for the optimistic, but you have the worst case scenario too. Do you think that's a good idea or not?
Yeah, plan for the worst and hope for the best.
You
Absolutely.
end up somewhere in between.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think scenario planning is so important. Even if your plan is the majority of it's the same, but you've got a couple of cash flow forecasts that are different. One is I stick with the same suppliers. One is make a really bold move and I narrow it down to working with one supplier only because I can get a better price. There's a higher risk in that, but map out the costs, see what you can do with it. Um, yeah, absolutely. I think having those plans mean, let's go back to GPS, right? You suddenly find there's a traffic jam, it's going to divert you around to somewhere else to still get there. So I think, yeah, absolutely, that's a good idea to have options.
Perfect. Someone had just asked what was the name of the four quarters box you were just speaking about just a minute ago.
Oh, the Eisenhower matrix, as in General Eisenhower, Eisenhower. So if you Google that, you'll literally get these Qs 1 to 4.
Someone else asked, do you recommend any other particular business plan templates to use?
Not particularly. We had a couple of good recommendations here from I think it was the King's Fund,
Yeah, I saw that one.
sorry, King's Trust. To be honest, there's no one plan because every business is different. We might have someone on here who sells crochet. We might have somebody who is, an IT and cyber expert. You might have somebody that exports gin. It's all going to be different. And so actually I find being too cumbersome is the off-putting thing. But yet somebody who exports gin will have a lot of regulatory requirements to deal with. You're
Mhm.
going to have a very different business plan to someone who makes crochet and sells at craft markets. So think about what is it that I really need to help me move forward? And actually describe your business into Perplexity or ChatGPT and say, well, what do you recommend? What would make this easy? If I had to do a business plan on a page, then you could do that. Some people use the business model canvas. Now that's a popular one. I have to say contentiously, I'm not a massive fan. I think it tries to put things in one place when actually it's a full process to get that output. So I think it's a blunt tool. But I might be unpopular for saying that, but I don't care.
Personal preference.
It's because it's branding. People are like, oh, you have to do it because it's a known output. That's why.
Yeah.
So if I was to say I'm running a session and you leave with one of those, people will go, right, check. It can be funded. Whereas actually, it's not going to guide you into how to do something.
Mhm. Last one that we've got in here. So Jasmine asked, how do you balance moving on versus creating a perfect business plan by getting loads of mentoring slash reviews and challenges?
You can get paralysis from analysis, basically. You can get stuck by thinking too much, whereas just taking a step and doing something will move you forward. Don't let, I'm full of all the analogies today. Don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. It kind of doesn't matter what the business plan actually looks like if no one's going to buy anything from you. So just make a step, make a plan for the day to say, I'm going to speak to 5 of my existing customers and say, would you give me a review? Find out from them how well you're doing. Look at your cash flow. Go into the things you can't argue with. You can't argue with numbers, data.
Yeah.
They'll give you the proof around your business. Otherwise, yeah, we can sit there trying to design what's perfect, but all the time we're doing that, we're not selling.
Definitely. Amazing. Thank you so much. The session was great. There's loads of lovely feedback in the chat that I've already seen. So thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who has joined. And we will be back again tomorrow for the second last day. So thank you, Emma, and I will speak to you all again this week.
Pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the series.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.